I knew that I had already had a lot of evidence that making with my hands was an important part of how I regulated myself, how I healed, how I just was able to move all of this energy. And it comes back to life force,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think when we are open and in love with life and we are doing our own work, whatever that looks like, there is this excess electricity
Mm-hmm.
within us. And so I realized that the way I was using my electricity before in coaching and everything else was very geared towards serving, yes, but it was giving so much of it away.
Welcome to the Huffing Spirit Podcast, where we take you from the sacred to the profane, from the serious to the silly, from the outer to the inner, and from the guru back to you. Join your playful podcast guides, Alex Hindley and Natalie Dick, as they bring you back to a grounded and more authentic approach to spirituality.
Welcome back to the Huffing Spirit Podcast. We have Katie Wilken on today, and I'm so excited to explore all of the fun adventures that you have been on. So welcome. Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. And we get to like hang out somewhat, face to face and talk and just jam. I love that.
We're going to jam today for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the only way I can jam because I suck at instruments and singing. So,
all right.
it's like two cats fucking. If you've ever heard that, is how my voice sounds when I sing.
Oh, well, wow.
Yeah, imagine being my wife and I love music and I'm like, oh, this song's great, and I start singing and she's like,
oh, that is just
you're great, honey.
Yeah, I once got a woodblock in choir. Like the teacher's like, hey, here's the woodblock.
Really? I thought you would have had some musical talent.
Nope. So let's jam because this is.
Let's not jam about Alex's lack of musical talent.
Yeah.
More about Katie, our guest. Katie, okay, so do you want to introduce yourself? And we're going to kind of get into these other topics. But who's Katie?
Oh, dude, this is always the hardest question, don't you think?
I always see it as like, who's Katie and the persona that we want to present to the world, or who's the deep down Katie? Let's do two of those. Only if you feel like it.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the second one you said?
Who is Katie, the persona that we want the world to see? There you go. And then who is Katie on the inside?
We're fucking going deep fast. Okay.
We're going into deep water.
I am a Scorpio, so maybe that's just what happens usually. Okay. So I'll just start with like the real raw version of myself. I'm generally like a messy person. And the more I've allowed myself to really be okay with that, the more I can have some compassion for the messes. There's always like physical piles around me and then like mental piles. And before they used to really consume me, and I can see how that would really dysregulate me. But now I'm using them more as a mirror to like, okay, hey, what is going on that you're not actually addressing? And I have more tools within my tool belt. I know you guys, you probably hear that all the time on this podcast, but that's just the thing. Like, there are these tools that I've grown over the last, I guess, 16 years since my journey of getting to know myself in a healthier way has began. And so I'm messy. I can be selfish. I can definitely be, like I said, I'm a Scorpio, so I can definitely like have that sting, but I think I try and for myself, like dress it up that it's nice. But my husband would disagree. I don't yell, but he says I say it with my eyes. Like I can just yell with my eyes very well.
Yeah.
but I'm also like a lover. Like I cry at sunsets. I cry when I see like dogs with their heads out the windows of a car and like having the best time of their life. Like I'm just in love with life. And um, I think life in and of itself is actually really messy as well. You know, like nature is messy. Nature creates piles that need to decompose and all of that. So I think that's kind of the nutshell that I don't typically like show, except for today was the first day that I made a reel about the piles. So this is so interesting. Um, I I did a reel of like a time lapse reel of me like cleaning my office because it's very piley right now. And I'm also like really going through a deep transition within myself and all of that. So the piles that have been accumulating, I'm also really addressing right now and it feels good. And it also feels good to like really share that with the people that I don't like the word followers, but the people that are joining me through social media. So
I love that you just launched into the messy.
yeah.
You're like, I'm messy. Like, and so that I love that you just launched into the raw parts. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. I feel like that is important to like not hide that, even though I definitely do sometimes. And it's like, I think that in and of itself is like an art to really, if you decide that you're sharing yourself and life on social media through like helping others and really having that way of being, that more and more it's super important to really be who you are as much as possible. And I can definitely tell when I am hiding on social media. I'm like, oh, I can't like take that angle, or like I need this filter on right now, or just like those kinds of things. So I'm working on removing that either shame or just being like, okay, I like a filter. It's pretty, kind of the way too.
Yeah. So
Well, you're right though, because like, how often do you see somebody be like, there's all this like good parenting porn, where it's like, oh, and then I took Timmy for a walk, and but you never been like, hey, check out this video of me screaming at my kid after trying to keep it cool for hours.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, Katie. Now I know you from a long time ago when we were both in network marketing with doTERRA. That's how we met. That's how we connected. And it's fascinating because we've had such a similar path, like not in what we're doing right now, but in the breaking free from something like that. And then the spiritual journey in business and as a healer. And I mean, we've been following each other back and forth, almost working together in a workshop series. It didn't get to work out, but
Yet,
exactly. It's the reason why I have you on this podcast, because I was telling Alice, I'm like, why do you get this Katie girl on the podcast? She's just so rad. Like she's so much depth and so much wisdom, and you're so vulnerable in what you share with the story. And I know you've had a lot of trauma, as have I, and I think we've talked quite a bit about that and just touched on that. And I see so many parallels in our life.
It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so wild. So do you want to start a little bit about what you do now and how you got there? Let's cut that open.
Okay. Well, how I got here, I would need to start at the beginning, which would be one therapy appointment that changed my life. So what brought me to therapy was a very richly woven tapestry of trauma growing up with, some of the biggest T's that you can experience as a woman. And without getting into too much detail, a lot of really intense traumatic things happened. And what brought me to that moment in that office was, coming home from Australia. I did the sex, drugs, and rock and roll to first try and cope and heal with what I had experienced. And as we know, that isn't a great way to really do that. And I busted my knee in Australia, jumping off like a 5-foot high knee wall, drunk, like showing Canadian boys around the beach, just kind of being like, oh, I've been here for so long. I'll show you around.
Look at me.
Yeah.
I
Look at me. I'll jump off this thing, and then shattered my knee. And so I needed surgery. And on the way home from Australia, I heard for the first time, like another voice being like, it's time to go home and heal. And during that time, when I was in that toxic way, I would see flashes of myself on stage. Ever since I was young, I knew that for me, there was a bigger purpose. I didn't know what it was. In my scrapbooks, I wanted to be like the women's NBA basketball coach, even though I didn't play basketball. I wanted to be a gym teacher. So there was always like that kind of coach, teacher, person. Yeah. Experience. So plane, Australia, time to go home and heal. So I came home and lived with my mom when I was 27 to Kincardine, where I live now. And fast forward through some big stuff and meeting my husband, within probably 4 months of being home. And I knew it was time to heal. Like when I first met him, I'm like, listen, I'm fucked up. Like you can stay or you can go, but like I'm on this thing. I don't know what it is, but I know that like I'm got a lot of stuff and, we're still together. So that's great. And the therapy appointment, she asked me to paint my feelings. And that was the first time that I really had been in touch with creativity in that way. And that actually changed the trajectory of my life because I really realized the connection of our hearts and our hands. And not till later did I understand the womb connection for us as women, but the channel of the heart and hands, and just how, for me, the tactile way that I was able to really move energy out was the beginning of something that then turned into, creating my son's first Halloween costume when he could walk, and just all these different modalities. I had photographs in a cafe and paintings in a cafe, and I just really tapped into something special where I feel like I'm so open in a lot of ways to really be messy and make mistakes that I can grasp a medium of creativity very quickly. Like I can make something and then all of a sudden brides want me to decorate their whole bridal party with things that I make. The most important day of a woman's life for the most part, the special thing. And then all of a sudden people are asking me to like do all this. And then I was in magazines and it just began to really unfurl itself. But at the same time, I was healing. I was, in this process of really moving through a lot of the stuff that I needed to move through. And I've always shared, like, I don't know, like before Facebook was like the Facebook it is, and Instagram, like my account recently got deleted. That was a decade of work of me just sharing my heart and everything and my art. And so eventually, as I grew, I was certified in Kundalini, and I just really took to the understanding of spirituality. But even still, like Instagram spirituality, and I think the way mainstream spirituality doesn't feel like my type, I guess. Like the way that I interact with it is very life-based and very like connections with humans and the mundane, and like just the dog out the window and the clouds, and just being I've got goosebumps, like just being a human alive interacting with other humans, to me has been like the most spiritual awakening. But it's slow. It's not like I've never sat with ayahuasca, although I probably would, but never sat with any of those big plant medicines to have like a burst open type experience. It's just been very slow and steady and
Human.
um and then for a while I was doing coaching. Like I actually did go like this and like, okay, it's so much more than the beads. And this is where I feel like my ego kind of took over in a way, and the coaching industry like sunk its teeth into me. And I had to be like, I had to be a coach and be someone that can help people.
Blah, blah, blah. Like,
yeah.
The toxic coaching industry.
The toxic coaching industry. And
did you find that competed with your like messiness? Like, were you struggling with that process at the time of feeling like you had to be organized for these people?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And when I wasn't, I would feel a lot of shame when I had to like cancel a call, or I couldn't pull myself out of whatever mess or pile I was in to like really create what I had promised or what I wanted to do. And then, but I was good at it. Like the best way that I would say would be in person, really being able to hold space for a room. Like I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I'm open and I'm willing. I think that's like one of the most important parts of being someone that offers things to people. And no matter what it is, to be open and willing to like get it wrong and be corrected, or, willing to like say something. I had this happen at a retreat, and someone was so distraught about what I said about the simple thing of you create your reality. And then she came lovingly with tears, upset because these things were happening in her life. And I was like, oh, maybe you don't. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to be willing to really be humbled in a lot of situations as well. And then 2020 happened and my kids were home and everything kind of just had to shift for me. My marriage had a big breakdown and I came back to the art. When I came home from that breakdown, I came back to the art and I just started making again. And I knew that I couldn't not make anymore. Like, no matter what I'm doing, no matter how I'm serving, I, as a person, have to come first. I was really giving a lot as a mother of 3, you can imagine, and coaching and holding space for so many. I was just like giving from an empty cup. So I realized that for me as a person to be happy, healthy, whole for my family, for me, that I have to make, like, I literally need to like make things. So, yeah. And I've always been someone that loves fashion ever since I was a kid. Like I remember getting my first pair of Michael Jackson high tops when I was in grade 6. They were like these really cool black with all these studs and like no one had them.
I don't even know of these things.
They're like worth $400 right now on Etsy. I wish I still had them. But that was also a part, like when everything burns down, you got to reflect and like really be like, what the fuck is happening? And that was the part of 2020 that I really took advantage of while we were in transition in the world and everything else. And I realized, I looked back at who I was as a kid. And naturally, I was a quirky, weird dresser shopping at Value Village and just wanting to be different. And because I am different from a lot of the mold. And I always found comfort in, dressing myself in that way. So I was sitting on the environmental committee as well. So it all just kind of like came into this, moment of like, okay, I'm going to teach myself how to sew. I'm going to teach myself how to make clothes. I'm going to teach myself all these things that I need to do to get this up and going. I'm going to use recycled, upcycled materials. And here we are.
I love it so much. So if you haven't seen Katie's Instagram or her website, go check it out because she's got some really unique pieces. I keep every time I see something on Instagram, I go and it's sold out. So
I have this shirt, The Anarchy is Love. This is my latest collection. I taught myself how to screen print as well. So yeah.
How long did that take to make?
Oh, the process was actually hard considering the things that I've made in the past. Getting everything centered and, of course, making the rookie mistakes and stuff. It probably took me I would say 10 hours to really just get it down. And then once you get the t-shirts under the screen, it's actually really, really quick. And that's why I decided to do it, because then I can have an avenue of income that isn't the things that take me the longer to do, like the customized jackets and, higher price things. If I have something that I can just whip out, or my boys, my goal is to get one of my boys to just be able to run the screen print.
Child labor. Love it.
Yes, exactly.
Love the child labor.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would go back to the messy part. And it's so funny because as you're talking, another parallel is that Katie and I worked at the same bar in our 20s, but we didn't work at the same time. We were just what? And it was, I also have a very messy 20s, lots of drugs and rock and roll and a lot of numb nights. Anyway, but going back to that messy, not necessarily the messy, but that cooking process part, in 2020 where burning it all down. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
What would you like to know about that?
What was that internal process for you so how did you get the message or the knowing that it's okay, this is not working anymore. I gotta move on to and coming back to that inner child, because that's a really profound knowing within yourself. So if our audience is listening, how do I go back to that place?
I knew that I had already had a lot of evidence that making with my hands was an important part of how I regulated myself, how I healed, how I just was able to move all of this energy. And it comes back to life force, right? I think when we are open and in love with life and we are doing our own work, whatever that looks like, there is this excess electricity within us. And so I realized that the electricity the way I was using my electricity before in coaching and everything else was very geared towards serving, yes, but it was giving so much of it away. And when I came back from leaving my marriage for 8 weeks, I just got the message somehow to buy a denim jacket off Poshmark and just start painting. And so that's what I did. It's actually right here. I keep it on the back of my chair. It says, "She remembered she could fly." And so no one gets that one. That's my one. And I think what it takes to burn things down is, first of all, to slow down and to listen and to really, I had to evaluate what was I receiving for myself from coaching and, helping people one-on-one in that way. And this might not be a popular opinion, but there was a lot of ego involved in it. And I realized that this is hard to put it out into words. I realized that I needed to heal me first. And if I want to come back to coaching, which I see in my future in a totally different way, that it will be from a different place. Gotcha. I think I've always been coaching and sharing my story through the whole way through.
Yeah.
Right? But in this way, I'm still getting to I'm taking care of myself first, because I realized how important that is for me. Some people, it's running, everyone has, not everyone, people that are dedicated to opening themselves and are willing and open have their thing for the most part. And for me, I realized that I put that thing away to like try and be someone else, to try and put on a face to be like, okay, well, now I'm this person. I'm going to go live every day and I'm going to, like tell everyone how they can do life. And like, I really realized, all the time, like learning from the coaching industry and learning from coaches that make $7 million a month, but like all the things, really trying to strive to be that person. But that's not who I am in this moment. I needed to like integrate other things. I needed to like have a different vehicle than the same way everyone was doing it.
Yeah. And I feel like the coaching industry it's like a lot about fixing things and fix your mindset. And
yes.
I mean, Katie and I were in that at the same time, right? Especially when we were in network marketing, which I'm not going to slander it. It was a great experience, but it was hustle culture and, fitting yourself into this box of, okay, what's the next step? And it's so linear and goal oriented. It is so masculine, and it ruined me. It actually, like, I got so sick from it. My hormones were all over the place. Oof. Yeah.
And for me, that also looked like debt, like paying for the next program or paying for, just like paying out to be coached by this person or that person.
To get a new certificate, to get new training, to level up in some way.
Yeah, it is I think a lot of people are kind of unraveling from that toxic coach. You can still see elements of it on social media, but a lot of people have really left that whole frame, which is great. And if it works for some people, that's wonderful, but I really struggled in it. And same thing, like, oh, the next program, well, if I get coached by this person, then I'll be successful. But that goes against, again, it's like everything that we do on this podcast. It's like everybody's fucking out there, looking out there for the thing that's going to fix them, for the thing that's going to make them successful, for the next shiny toy, like the next shiny object or whatever. It's this constant seeking outside of yourself for success that was never meant for you.
Yeah.
It was never meant for you. I mean, I feel like I've been on that entrepreneurial wheel for many years, and it's a mind fuck because you're doing things that you think you're supposed to, and then it's never really been in line with you.
Well, and it's so interwoven into everything we do. Like you haven't seen somebody in a few weeks. You go, what have you been doing with yourself? What have you been doing? And I noticed that with some friends, I have this, oh, well, I've been studying this, and and it goes, it's an intellectual big dick competition. And I'm starting to just be like, just me, and just letting it sit and see kind of what happens with that. Can you talk about your letting go process? Because I feel like that's got to be involved in what you're doing, from like comparing yourself to what you were, what you wanted to be, to where you are, and accepting yourself for that.
I feel like there's still moments where I'm like, okay, I'm creating these clothes. Like I've signed up for the farmer's market this year, and I feel like, is this enough? Like, am I actually, because I do have so much inside that I know I'm meant to share, and like, is this enough? So the letting go has actually been letting God lead and really, truly like surrendering and being like, okay, like, again, like that ego, like, aren't I supposed to be like saying more or, on stages or like all this stuff? But I'm just letting God take the lead. And every single morning I pray before my feet hit the ground, and I put my hand in my heart and I'm in gratitude. And I'm like, okay, just tell me what to do today. Like, show me, lead me by my highest excitement, and I'll do it. I just decided that I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do. but there is a divine plan. And if I just let the divine plan unfold and I get the fuck out of the way, then I'm going to be at a farmer's market where I kind of feel uncomfortable because I think I should be doing something bigger with all this talent, but I'm going to be here for right now. And then I know that that'll lead me to the next thing and to the next thing. And so that's been the process of what it's felt like to let go. But then there's also part of me that's very much, I've got a lot of fire in my chart, in case you couldn't notice. And I'm just like, fuck it, burn it down and let's go do something else. Like, I'm also not super attached to, because if you look at before the coaching, I had done many different modalities as well, as far as like different mediums, I guess it's called in artistry. Like, I was doing this and then that, but I, again, just like that willingness and openness to follow the electricity where it wants to go, because I am like being guided. That's the art for me. It's not mine. None of it is mine. You know, I get to make it pretty. Sure, it comes through my name in some ways, but it's actually God's. It's actually this higher divine power that literally like moves me and plants the idea in it, and then I get to make it. Like, how cool is that? That's what I love about making. It's like, okay.
Amazing.
As you're speaking, it's like even more parallels, because that is literally like the whole process I've been in the last year is just, I'm done driving the ship. I'm done. You take over for me because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Here.
And how refreshing is that? How much more space is there?
Yeah. And like, I mean, this has been fair. I've been on this surrendering path for quite a while, but I've intellectualized the surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you can intellectualize anything, right? It's like, well, if I just hand it over, okay, well, then what's next? I didn't fully trust. Mm-hmm. And it's only been recently, and I'm probably going to share my story in a different podcast or something else like online about this, but it is truly like when you get like taken to your knees, like, take this. I don't want to be responsible anymore. I know that you're actually driving the ship, so please just do it for me. And that, for me, it feels like the ultimate feminine, like the ultimate surrender of like, oh, I'm held. I don't have to do this by myself, which has been my story for a while, being a single mom. So like, that letting go process, like, I think the letting go has been intellectualized over and over and over again throughout my life. And people say, well, you just let it go until you actually give it to a higher power. Your ego is going to grip onto it.
Totally.
Wild. It is a wild ride.
How do I get God to do their parenting share? You fucking do it. You lead the way.
Yeah.
Take care of this fucking kid.
I don't want to.
I would say you surrender more and just allow your child to be your child and you be you and enjoy the building of what is between you.
I can do that. Thank you.
I have teenage boys. I don't know how old your kids are, but
he's 4.
4. So yeah.
I showed 5 fingers. He's 4.
He's 4. I'm like, what's that?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
I'm teaching him math.
If you're listening to the podcast, Alex is putting up the Vulcan grip or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's Star Trek.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
Thank you, Ed. I can receive that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And maybe you don't, but like, I don't know. Teenage boys are like a whole thing that you have to surrender because, you know, I think at any age, they're just them. A person in your life is a person in your life. And if you want, like, you have to let them be then. Of course, you're guiding them and you're loving them and you're like, you know, giving them the guidance. But yeah, that helps me anyways. Not always easy.
No. So do you want to talk a little bit about the creative process for you? Like, what does it, and I mean, I can already see that it's like getting out of bed, praying, allowing God to lead through you and kind of enter you and be like, where am I going? But can you give our audience a little bit more? Because I've always watched you create, always done things with your hands. And it's such a fascinating process to me. And I think that a lot of people really want to tap into that, but they don't know where to start. Like everyone thinks, well, I'm not creative, but they are. Everybody, like, it's, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I hear that all the time.
I'm gonna let you take a stage because I feel like you're just gonna be like, blah, 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 blah.
Again, I think it really does have to go back to the willingness and the openness to be messy, to make mistakes, and to be a beginner. Like every time I step up to a new medium, I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. Like I have to really make a lot of mistakes. And that in and of itself is a way to really see what you're made of. And there are times where my piles are high and I'm just like, fuck this shit. And like, this is so hard. Why did I do this? But then you pull yourself back in and you just allow yourself to be led. Living in a small town and being open through my journey, I do have a lot of women come up to me and say like, how do you do what you do? And like, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Oh my God. I'm just like, yes, you do. But I think how I do it is I'm just willing. And I know it's like kind of a simple answer. But I think the best things in life are actually really simple. We just let ourselves be moved and we let ourselves be messy and make mistakes. And if you have a vision, it's not like I do have a vision that I'd love to speak to at some point, but you just get up and you do it. You just have to be consistent. You have to allow yourself to show up just like anything, And we innately as human beings, like everything you fucking see around this whole world is creativity. Like
it was in somebody's head. Like somebody thought of it. Like you're sitting on something that was in somebody's head. Like that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's really interesting because I think this has been a block in my own creative process and many times is that we're so focused on what the outcome of the thing is that we're in that and I think this is why a lot of people procrastinate, including myself. It's like I can't even start because I'm so focused on the end that the pieces that it takes to get started is the mess. And I'm like, I don't like the mess. It's comfortable. And it's because if you come from a place of trauma, we have perfectionism and we have to make sure that like I can't not get it right. So therefore I'm not even going to start the goddamn process. Like that's wild. Like I've walked myself through that process a million times, but it's crazy to think that people don't even start anything because they're just so focused on the outcome and not the process. So how would you say focus on the process?
I would say life's a journey. Life is always about the journey. There's just such a deep reflection of life and the art of being human in anything that you're going to create. And nature, if you allow yourself moments to just sit back and actually reflect on what a human journey is, and then you look outside and you see the seasons change, you take another breath and you're like, okay, well, I'm actually in that. I am that. So what would be different with this piece of, this painting that I want to make? You gather the things, the paints, the canvas, and you just let it be what it is. And I think that's, there's been a disservice to art in and of itself through, consumerism and all the ways that we think that it's not art if it's not in a gallery. It's not art if it doesn't look like this. But look at how much we cherish our children's drawings.
Yeah.
Like we get them and we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I love it. And I'm going to put it here. And like, it's no different, it's just like, just because we're adults, does it need to be some spectacular masterpiece when we've never fucking tried the thing we're doing? No. And does it need to be 20 years down the road? No. It's actually just about that moving of electricity, that moving of energy, and the health of your system. To me, it's the health of my system.
It's an output.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Same with dancing. For me, I need to dance as well. Like when I was younger and going through all the things I was going through, it was heavily sports. Like I played rugby, soccer, like I played every sport I could to get out of the house. I needed to move that energy. And I think once you become aware of the electricity and the energy and the life force, like you understand what happens. It's disease if we don't move it. Like, yeah. It just takes different shapes as we grow. When I was younger, unconscious, unhealthy, it took this shape and that shape. And then you just move your electricity differently. And if you don't judge how you move your electricity and your life force energy, then you're alive and smiling and like really in the whole journey.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so similar to like how I live my life as well too. So there's like a high resonance of what you're saying of it gives energy or it takes energy. And I love what you were saying about lead me by my highest excitement. If everybody did just a little bit of that every day, wow, like what a difference that makes.
Yeah. And it's so funny. Alex and I had a in-person podcast recording, and like to get ready, we're like, let's just like hammer out a workout because we're just like, we're both like super kinesthetic. And like, I need to move my body. I'm very, very kinesthetic. And I think going back to your comment before, being young and moving all the time, like having to output, that was something that I did. I moved fast. I outputted. I was super sporty. That's also a reason that I had to distract from the feelings within myself. And then I started drinking. And then I was just like, I have to output. And that becomes this, the means to get to the point where you need to go. But it's funny, just Alex and I being in Michigan together, we were like, let's record. We're like, no, we got to hammer out a workout. Like, let's move this energy and get like, because it's like Alex and I were in schooling together in Chicago. That's how we met, and have been on quite a journey together. So everything is energy. And if you are, it's like, what is feeding you? What's depleting you? It's like the input, output, and everybody's so different in how we're designed to experience that. And I love that you have found that within yourself. You beam. You absolutely beam your authenticity of who you are. And I've seen you through so many different stages of your life.
Totally.
Have we known each other in the online space for like 10 years?
Yes. And I really feel like we've met in person. I like, when I think about it, I'm like,
I think at some event we have, but I can't remember.
You two aren't in the same city?
No. No, she's north. She's 2 hours north of me in Kincardine.
Okay.
Like a beach town, gorgeous beach town.
Yeah. Yes. One thing I want to ask you about your path, when you realized that you're moving your energy in different ways, how did you, like, according to like what you were moving through in life, did you then begin to feel less shame about, I mean, maybe I'm just asking because I definitely had to move through a lot of shame for the behaviors and just like the way that I was coping and the way that like society puts this cap on women and how you're not supposed to do things. And so when I look at my life according to how I moved my energy and how I was coping and like surviving and doing the best that I can, it really helps to alleviate a lot of shame.
Yeah, I have like great compassion for the girl who is just trying to cope, right? Is trying to like, there's a lot of cringy stuff, lots of shame, shameful things that like, So I think the movement for me, like, I think I moved at such a high, fast pace. Like I was so high functioning Even when I was in corporate, like I was working for L'Oreal, and I was really good. I think I said this in another podcast. I was really good at constructing to make everything look perfect. So I was like, okay, I have this amazing job. I'm going to train for a marathon. I'm going to teach spin classes. I'm going to do everything that I can to succeed because I feel like garbage on the inside. Because it was like the coping mechanism to show the world that I'm not what I felt like inside. So then spirit comes crashing down and I break my ankle. And I remember that injury was a pivotal one, kind of similar to where I had to sit in my apartment in Vancouver for, I think, 2 months. I couldn't drive. I was on crutches. I had to ask for help. Like, I didn't ask people for help. I was the person that helped everybody else. So I was alone with my thoughts. I couldn't move, and I was forced to sit with such deep discomfort that I had moved so quickly to avoid. Right? So the high functioning part of me started to break down. And I was like starting to burn out at my work. And anyway, it's interesting how you can think you're so healthy. Like that's when I got into like nutrition and yoga and all the things. I was like, I'm spiritual. Oh my God, I'm so spiritual.
Yeah.
You are.
I have a cool job. I do all the things to impress everybody.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. And so that, I think that God and spirit work in a way that you get like a spiritual smackdown in your life from time to time. Like you are, and this year I have gotten I feel like the last 2 years, big spiritual smackdown, but they're always to serve your greatest purpose and to actually just annihilate the shit out of your ego.
And that's where the belief in and the trust in divine timing is like, it's always the thing that really helps me just like, okay, ground, like to every millisecond, like divine timing, no mistakes, literally no mistakes.
Yeah. So that was my path through movement, and movement has always been very important to me. Like it's if I don't move my body, I stagnate, and it's not stagnation in a way where I'm running from my issues. Now it's movement in a way where I'm like connecting deeper to myself. That's like I used to run, and I'm like, what are you running from, Natalie? What are you fucking running from? And
what are you running to?
I hate it now.
You hate running now?
I hate running. And it's just not my thing. Like I'll go for a little jaunt around the block and I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I don't need this. I'll go.
I can't run because of my knee surgery and all the things. So I can't run anymore, which is sad because I was a sprinter. But walks, great walks, Pilates, yoga, weights. Yes. Yes. All the yes to that.
So this was a beautiful conversation. Where can we find all of your things, all of your amazing artwork?
Threadsofharmony.ca is my website, and Threads of Harmony on Instagram, but there's like threads.of.harmony on Instagram is how I had to set it up. And those are the best spots. I'm starting a podcast also called Threads of Harmony, talking about basically a lot of the stuff we talked about today and how life is a thread, and you see the threads, you pull the threads. And I think always been my gift through this journey of sharing has been to help people see the harmony, the threads of harmony. And that's what I want to talk about on the podcast. So I'll have to have you guys on when that's ready.
Love it.
Would love to. So a question that we always ask for our listeners, so we can give them a little smidget of something
For the listeners and for us, like we do it too.
We do the homework. It's like some little embodied practice that we can, well, nugget where it's bringing us back to ourselves, right? We're not sitting out there, but really, yeah. What would you recommend?
I would recommend meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation or meditation?
Meditation.
Go on.
Is this like extra sleeping? Because I'm sure any mothers on the podcast are like, yeah.
It really is. Okay, so I set 2 alarms in the morning, and then the second one, I'm like more awake, and I lie in bed on purpose and I do my prayers, and I look out the window or look, if you don't have, most people have a window in their room, but there's just like this inhale of life and deep gratitude and conversations with God, your higher power, and asking me, lead me to my highest excitement today. Like, how do I get to serve? And I think using the word get to serve, how do I get to, what do I get to do today? Yeah.
Words are powerful.
That is why I love to use words on my clothing and all the things. Yes.
So I didn't understand the shirt to begin with. And I'm like, I feel like an asshole for being this dumb and being along. The anarchy is the love. Like, can you explain that? Because it seems cool, but I don't get it.
So I think it can go 2 ways. Like the anarchy. So I'm more in like the freedom community, I guess we could say. And I feel like a lot of people, especially like more now, are really still tied to the government and how like bad they are, and like finger pointing, and like really connected to like fighting the man, and want anarchy and want everything to dissolve. And I think it will over time, but the actual anarchy is love. It's actually love. It's actually to love yourself first and to share love, and that will in a way transform everything that we are experiencing right now.
It's
dope as hell.
If you actually like do a little bit of research on anarchy it's assumed that it's absolute chaos. But it's actually all about sovereignty. Like the sovereignty of yourself. And yes, it is about a lack of government, because you are the government. You are governing yourself and your own sovereignty. So anarchy, I had to do some research on it too, because I remember looking and just assuming that anarchy meant absolute chaos, but it's actually like the most self-guided individual.
I looked it up too before I was going to put it on the shirt. And I'm like, okay, what does this really mean? Because it's a word that people, they're kind of shocked, right?
They're contrasting.
Exactly. And that's, I literally have the word bold tattooed on me and the word natural tattooed on me. Like, that is the dichotomy of how I love to create as well, especially in this medium, because I can use words to offer like these. I see visions of my clothing, someone reading something on a shirt or the back of a jacket and just like waking up in that moment. So that's part of like why God led me to create this, is to spread the message of love and openness, and like love the dog hanging out the window and just like fucking love life.
Powerful. Awesome.
Super powerful. Yeah. I have one more question. Because we have a lot of listeners in the US, can people purchase your things from the US?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
threadsofharmony.ca.
Do you make it in men's stuff too?
All right. Yeah,
Sweet.
Totally. I use a lot of men's. That's preferably what I like to shop for, because there's like the bigger silhouettes that you can use, and men's jeans are my favorite. And yes.
Well, on the flip side, I use lady razors when I'm trimming my stuff. So there you go.
Perfect.
Fun information.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Guy pants and lady razors.
It's a lot more gentle, There's a lot of like lotion with it and stuff.
Yeah. Self-love.
Self-love for the package.
As above, so below. If the top gets a haircut, the bottom gets a haircut.
There we go. I love that. I love how we're ending this. This is ending on a high note.
I love it. So, Katie, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Like, you have so much wisdom and you're just beaming beautiful, loving energy. And it's just been such a joy to just have a great conversation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. Like I said to Alex at the start, I love to talk. So it's good. Thank you for having me.
For not knowing you, I mean, like, I can't wait to know more about you. Like, your story is fascinating. What you're doing is super cool. And you can just tell you're in alignment with like the spark of life and what you're doing. Like, it's coming through you. It's noticeable in your words. It's noticeable in your art. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks, guys.
So happy to have you on. Thanks again, Katie.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Huffing Spirit Podcast. Remember, you are your own teacher. Take what resonates and leave the rest. For more info, follow us on Instagram at Huffing Spirit Podcast and subscribe on Spotify or iTunes. Bye for now.